The world seems to be in a very precarious place. Just look at the Middle East, at the brink of a major war, with the just recent assassination of the leader of Hamas, Haniyeh, and one of the major leaders in Hezbollah, with all that's going on in that whole volatile region, with Iran and its proxies. It appears there's a major vacuum of leadership. Where are our leaders? Why is nobody speaking up? Have you heard one leader getting up, one world leader of any country, and saying, look at the world. Where's our moral compass? We need leadership. We need direction. In my lifetime, I have not seen such a vacuum. Now, in the United States, it's very clear that we have a president that is compromised, to put it mildly. We have a presidential election that's focused on, I don't know what. And other countries of the world, I don't know what we can expect. So it's critical to talk about this. So please join me. Why are our leaders acting like donkeys and elephants? Hi, this is Simon Jacobson, and we will be discussing why are our leaders acting like donkeys and elephants. This program is dedicated by Ilana Goravoy to all those struggling with mental health, suffering, or feeling out of place. May our inner strength, courage, and the pure love within each heart be a source of healing. Bless all beings. The world is shaking. Let's begin with the Middle East. The Middle East. That volatile region, which has been at war for years now, decades, but especially in the last year, since October 7th. Iran and its proxies, Hamas in the south, Hezbollah in the north, the Houthis from Yemen, and others have, you can say, exploded. Each in their own way, with their attacks on Israel. They want to destroy Israel, simple as that. So beyond the what shall I say, the horror of these atrocities, what stands out most glaring is leadership. Where are our leaders? I have not heard one leader get up and give a talk, a visionary talk, an empowering one that lifts our spirits, gives guidance and direction, one filled with courage. It just doesn't exist. We can talk about the entire world, but I'm focusing on this country, the United States. So we're in the middle of a presidential campaign for elections this November. Look at the surprising upheavals that has endured. First of all, two candidates, the oldest candidates ever in the United States, each with their strengths and flaws, but primarily flaws. Most of the country did not want either of them. Then came, of course, the aging Biden and his disastrous debate performance, with a call for his resignation. Then the assassination attempt on Trump. Then Biden finally pulling out. under pressure. Who knows what went on there? And Kamala Harris replacing him. And we're back to the circus, the media circus, that has no balance at all, either completely pro-Democrat or pro-Republican, pro-Trump or anti-Trump, pro-Kamala or anti-Kamala. And no one's talking about the matters that really matter. Prime Minister Netanyahu gave a historic talk in Congress last week. But beyond that, it's either attacks on him or focusing on details. And now there's outrage, the killing of the head of what is labeled a terrorist organization. Everyone should be celebrating. No, it's going to create more violence. I mean, you tell me the hypocrisy of that. But I don't want to get into the very positions right now. I'm talking about what's going on here. So it's not a surprise that Democrats are compared to donkeys and Republicans to elephants. And I'm not talking about now individuals. If Mr. Trump hears this program, I don't want him to feel like I'm attacking him. On the contrary, what I would like to hear, and that would be most impressive, is both Donald Trump and Kamala Harris would each in their own way get up and give a historic talk. Show what a leader is supposed to say. So what is a leader supposed to say? So we had examples. Ronald Reagan was a very good example. Even if you don't agree with all his policies, but in times of crisis, he stood up and you felt like a leader. You felt you were in the hands of a master. His biggest critics would say he acted it. He knew how to put it on. But he made the country feel united. In other times of crisis, of wars, we've seen leaders rise up like that. Abraham Lincoln, his time. And perhaps FDR during World War II. Churchill, of course. What is required of a true leader is a bigger picture, a vision, and in turn guidance, direction. We're not talking now about actual strategy. That can be worked out behind closed doors. But how do you look at a world like this? For that, you need to have moral clarity yourself. If you don't, obviously, you cannot be able to share it with others. And that is what is sorely lacking. What you see in the streets of America, a confusion, and not by all, definitely by the ones that are noisy. That confusion exists at the top. It's become pandering, politics, polls. What do you stand for? Not just to make everyone happy and not to ruffle anyone's feathers. What do you stand for? And interesting, the Jewish people and Israel are the perfect lightning rod. Some people call it like the miner's canary. But the lightning rod that attracts both hate and also respect. Because the Jews always represented a higher cause. In the time of the Egyptian exile, close to over 3,300 years ago, they were the ones enslaved. So they represented freedom when they became free. And ever since, that's become the model of freedom. Exodus. The founding fathers compared themselves to the Israelites leaving Egypt. And throughout history, an oppressed minority that represented values and kept on advocating those values and growing in those values, the values that today we cherish. In the words of the founding fathers, all men are created equal. Or in the words of the Bible, all people are created, every human being in the divine image. And by virtue of the Creator are endowed with unalienable rights. That's the essence of the healthiest and the best of the human race. And that has consequences, how we treat each other. And how we behave when we see a country like Israel being under attack. And stop looking for moral equivalence. I'm not saying Israel can't make mistakes. But what do you think is happening in the world when they look at the United States today? They see a weakened leadership or no leadership. This is the most vulnerable time. This is a time where I could see everything being taken advantage of by our enemies. So I'm not surprised at many of the things that are happening. We don't want to suggest more will happen, but we need desperately this type of leadership. Not donkeys and not elephants. Vision. And where do you get vision from? You don't get it from pollsters. You don't get it from the media. You don't get it from your family. You get it from the texts, the sacred texts that the founding fathers studied. The texts that define what it means to be human, what is righteousness, what is just and what is unjust, what is morality, what is immorality. There's a reason you label an organization a terrorist organization. That means that organization stands for something that is antithetical to the human race. So live up to what you say. A terrorist organization should be eradicated unless they change their ways and change their policies. The only silver lining you can say is the expression that at the end of days we'll see clearly. It's much better to see your enemy clearly than subterfuge. That's why spies, counterintelligence is so important, because if you don't know who your enemy is, you think your enemy is your friend. So one thing is clear, the declaration of war against Israel that began in 1948 and maybe even earlier philosophically is now in the open. Just look at what Turkey said the other day. We will destroy Israel. Iran says it openly, Hamas says it openly, Hezbollah says it openly, and others maybe couch it. But it lies at the heart of Muslim fundamentalism. That it's not the Jews and not the Christians, but it's the Muslims that should control the world, and definitely the Middle East. Definitely a part of the world, Israel, that they control for a while. But no one talks about that. Clash of civilizations, yes. And perhaps deeper than that even. It's not just civilizations, it's a way of looking at things. That's all part of a visionary's way of thinking. That's how a leader thinks. What are the underlying forces? And how do you counter that? You're going to need, because right now what's happening is, I don't want to call it slow bleeding because it's not so slow. But it is, relatively speaking, slow bleeding. What's going to be required is a tremendous confrontation. A confrontation with Muslim fundamentalism, with extremism that calls for the death of innocent people, for the destruction of a country, for the destruction of a people. And the war is not just a physical war of getting rid of terrorists and rapists and people who burn children and take babies as hostages, but it's changing their whole attitude. Just like in Germany, it's forbidden now to teach Nazi ideology, and Germany has become a country, an ally to the United States, to Israel and other free countries. The same thing with Japan. That has to become the norm in the Muslim world. That's going to require a vision. That's not just going to require arms and fear. That's necessary as a deterrent. You need strength. That's part of what a leader says. So if we were to say talking points for a true leader that's not just an elephant or a donkey, the talking points is number one, moral vision. A moral vision for the entire world equally. Every country, every people, every race, every religion, every color, every stripe, people of faith, no faith. There's a moral demand, an expectation of how we should live and look at each other. Stated very clearly. Just like there's the Marshall Plan. This has to be maybe even bigger and larger, because today with technology, this is for 8 billion people. That's how a leader should speak. For 8 billion people, not just for your community, for your constituency, for your country, for the world. What is that moral vision? That allows for diversity, but in a moral way. That requires very strong spiritual underpinnings, spiritual cornerstones, foundations. That's one. Number two, we will defend these values with our lives. Which means if someone abrogates, someone defies them or breaches them in any way, an attack on innocent people, the world will defend it. The innocent. without compromise. No negotiations with people who are criminals, with terrorists. Strength. Number 3, a call for a change in the education systems and the values, how things are taught. We're not telling people how to serve God. The country, United States, was always based on separation of church and state. But to hurt other people in the name of your God, that's unacceptable. Look at the protests that were going on in Washington. Again, the ambiguity, the pandering, having to say this for this constituent, for that constituent. It's all the opposite of what leadership is about. I remember when the air traffic controllers struck, and what did Reagan do? He fired them all. No one would ever do such a thing, because that would create more danger. No, there was standards and values. And when he called the Soviet Union an evil empire, he's crazy. Star Wars. But the clarity of it was critical. And then the implementation out of strength. And we don't want war. We don't want blood. We want peace. But not a wishy-washy peace, not a peace of appeasement. A peace out of strength. That's the only peace that stands. You don't think Iran and all its proxies would not be affected by such an attitude, by such an approach? Of course it would. But again, where is that leader? Where is that leader? We have to believe, that there is a leader like that in the woodwork somewhere. And we have to demand, the grassroots have to demand this expectation, this standard. That's what is so sorely needed. How the world can change with one person like that. As you may know, I recently became friendly with the Argentinian president, Javier Milei. I hope he's one of those leaders. And should these words get to him, I hope he hears it. This is an opportunity, not of a lifetime, of history. And this is not about ego, not about making a mark and making a legacy. It's about the world needs it. That's what true leaders are about. Now you could say, why doesn't this happen from the grassroots? The thing is people, not because people can't rise to the occasion, but people are busy with their things and they're focused on their own little survival, and especially when there's distortions and there's a media that's trying to propaganda and try to brainwash us. It's very difficult to make heads or tails. That's why we need someone who can rise above the fray, rise above politics, and understand what is needed today. Oh man, how sorely needed is that? And oh man, what kind of changed world it could happen if we had a person like that. So that's what I'm advocating for. That's what we should be advocating for. Not an elephant, not a donkey, not a camel, not a goat, not a sheep. A human being shining with a divine image, of a divine vision, a transcendent vision for the world, but one that's not removed from reality, that's very much grounded. Your head can be in the clouds, but your feet firmly planted on the ground, to address the issues at hand, but with that spiritual moral vision. So it's not a pro or anti. It's not pro-Israel, anti-Muslim. It's pro-everyone. Pro the divine within everyone. Well, we have to be asking every one of our Jewish, Muslim, Christian, Buddhist, Hindu, the list goes on, atheists, agnostics, what would Abraham, our grandfather, father of all nations, what would he be saying? What would he be telling us? Over half the world sees Abraham as our pioneer. There are 2.5 billion Christians, 1.8 billion Muslims, around 14.5, 15 million Jews. I know numbers. And so many others. Abraham's vision of morality, of virtue, of justice, of kindness. One that has affected the world. A critical mass. What would Moses be saying? That's what we should be looking for. These are not elephants and donkeys. These are not animals. These are human beings the spirit of the human that looks upward, as he says in the Ecclesiastes, and provides us with a vision of life, a life for each one of us, of harmony within diversity, e pluribus unum. And I'm not even talking about exporting American democracy. This is a universal, global message. As I said, needed now more than ever. And how much it could resolve. Will it always come easy? May not, but you have to get yourself out of politics, meaning beyond politics, and beyond the immediate, as I said, pandering, special interests. People have to respect you, the leader, that you are above any particular partisan approach. You're not even Republican or Democrat. You're a divine ambassador to bring a higher light and a higher consciousness to this world. And the words of Maimonides, quoting Isaiah the prophet, that stated on the wall across the street of the United Nations, that there will be no more war, and the swords will be turned into plowshares. No more evil and destruction in the world, because it will be a world filled with what? With divine knowledge, as the waters cover the sea. What do you think divine knowledge is? Divine knowledge is not AI. Divine knowledge is not merely scientific and technology and medical knowledge. It has a divine component to it. A divine component means a transcendent component, mission-centric, mission-driven, not ego-driven, not survival-driven, and one that informs our daily lives and routines and transforms this world, yes, this world, into a divine garden, into a beautiful home. It's absolutely doable, but you need the requirements. You need the strength, that moral certainty, and above all, not to become trapped. You cannot solve a problem from where the system that the problem was created. You need to go beyond that, above that. That's the leader we're craving for. So see this as a call, a clarion call. Where are our leaders? Rise to the occasion. Now is the time. Thank you so much. This has been Simon Jacobson, meaningfullife.com is our website, where you can find a full wide array of materials. Please take advantage of it. Please subscribe to our offerings, to our growing YouTube channel. And please share. And I'd love to hear your comments, your thoughts, your feedback. Be blessed and be well. And we will see a bright and better world, better than ever before. Thank you.
This program is brought to you by the Meaningful Life Center. Please help us continue our programs. Make even a small contribution at meaningfullife.com/donate.